as we head into week 4, we're seeing some really big matchups within conferences. The Big Ten is no exception to that, as Michigan and USC play each other this week. These two teams come into the game with very different perspectives of how the season has gone, and they have different things that are either going right or not going super well for them in this season. So far, Michigan is 2-1. Obviously, the disappointing loss to Texas was not exactly ideal, but you also knew that there was going to be a little bit of a step back when you come off of a season that they had and the number of talented players that they lost. But we'll dive into them more in a little bit. USC is 2-0. They're feeling pretty good about what they're capable of doing, but you also have to keep in mind that Michigan's defense is something they have yet to see. And it'll be interesting to see how they handle this test. Currently, USC is a 5.5 point favorite. That is very surprising if you're told someone this at the beginning of the season, that USC would come into this game as a 5.5 point favorite, but it's easy to see why we've gotten to this point. And that leads us to kind of the burning questions for both teams. For Michigan, it's going to be who's the quarterback. Right now, the quarterback position has been, I think bad is almost like a compliment, but it has not been good. It's been very inconsistent. It's been a point of struggle for this team, and you have to figure that situation out quickly. If you do not, USC is going to run away with this game and find a way to make Michigan season seem like it's in disaster mode. So the quarterback position is very key. We don't know who it's going to be for the rest of the year, but this is a good idea of what you're going to see. Are they going to continue using two quarterbacks, or is someone going to step up and solidify their role as the starting quarterback? Because right now, this offense has not looked good. When you're looking at a team that's averaging just 23 points per game after what you saw last year, not that the years should be the exact same, but you still feel kind of disappointed. For USC, how do the Trojans keep Miller Moss upright? You are facing a Michigan defense. While Michigan's offense has struggled, Michigan's defense, I think, has had its struggles as well. But you have a really good defensive line that's been extremely disruptive. That is going to be a tough test. Miller Moss has been good so far. I think you've seen a lot of confidence in his game. But one way that Michigan can kind of knock him off his game is by hitting him, finding ways to disrupt his thinking, speed up his internal clock. That's going to be something to keep an eye on, which is why the matchup to watch is going to be Michigan's defensive line versus USC's offense line. You could also do the secondary for Michigan against USC's wide receivers. I'm curious how Zachariah Branch gets utilized. I'm curious who Will Johnson covers. You've seen, I think the one thing that's nice about USC is so far they have not favored too much one player. They obviously want Branch to get a ton of touches, but they have utilized multiple players. I mean, a tight end right now is their leading receiver. Lake McCree is the leading receiver, and that says a lot about the balance of this offense. And they're looking to continue that balance, but keeping Miller Moss upright probably is the biggest key for this team in order to continue the success that they've had thus far. When you're looking at the impact players for USC, everything starts with Miller Moss. Not really a surprise there. When you take over for Caleb Williams, there's a lot of expectations on you. And so far, Miller Moss has essentially pushed those to the side and said, I'm not Caleb Williams. I'm going to be myself. And that has been great so far. 607 yards and 2 touchdowns for him. And he is someone who is going to be a big time impact player in this game. If he can handle the pressure, he's going to get hit. It's just a matter of time. It's also just a matter of how many times he does get hit. And so far we've seen him take hits and he's gotten right back up and continued to play. The running back next to him, Woody Marks, has been a really good addition from the transfer portal for USC. He's been a solid player. We talked about Lake McCree before. The tight end has been really exciting to watch in this offense, but again, he is not much farther ahead than the next guy behind him. So this is a balanced group that's really fun to watch. Zach Branch is someone to keep an eye on, but it's really been the defense that has stepped up in a big way. Anthony Lucas is showing exactly why Texas A&M wanted him out of high school, and he has been really good for this Trojans defense. D'Anton Lynn has had a huge impact on this team, and certain players like Anthony Lucas and Eric Gentry have stepped up in a big way. Lucas has been extremely dominant so far. Gentry is having a really good year, and we knew that they were both capable of that. We just didn't see that under the previous coordinator, and that's really exciting if you're a USC fan, especially because this is going to be a physical game for the USC defense. This is a Michigan team that wants to run the football, and it's a team that is going to test this defensive line with their physicality. They want to run the football, and that's going to be something that USC is not used to yet this season. And this is part of the Big Ten. Teams really want to run the football. Michigan is going to be one of those teams, but how they handle things up front is going to dictate how successful they are in this game. The impact players for Michigan have changed on the offensive side of the ball quite a bit, but the defense pretty much remains the same. Josiah Stewart having a pretty good year so far. 3.5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. Again, this Michigan defensive line is no joke. You have Stewart, you have Mason Graham, you have certain other players, Kenneth Grant. You have guys that are going to be disruptive, especially in that defensive line and the linebackers, and that's going to test USC if they're ready for that brand of physicality. On the offensive side of the ball, we talked about the quarterback position. Really, that is the biggest X factor for this team. If you're going to find ways to win football games, you must figure out what your quarterback position is going to be. If it's going to be this continuous rotation and a continuous struggle, you're going to find that this season takes a long time. However, if you figure it out and find a guy who can take care of the football as well as get things to be a little bit more explosive, then this season looks much different. Right now, you're feeling some sort of way about the Michigan football team, and it's not exactly the most positive. And a loss here would probably make things feel very, very different than you were at the beginning of the year. But you have players that you can lean on to make that happen. We talked about USC's defensive line. Michigan's offensive line must be physical. And so far, they have shown that they can be that. But this is going to be a tough test. Similar to what Texas brought to the table, USC is going to be physical. They have bulked up on that defense, and it's going to be tough to move them around. So guys like the offensive line, as well as Colston Loveland, but you'd like to see him more involved in the passing attack, must be physical. Khalil Mulling so far with Donovan Edwards not exactly shining like we expected. Khalil Mullings has been really exciting so far, and he has been the go-to guy in the rushing attack. Again, we'll see what this offense can look like in terms of opening things up, but he so far has been the go-to back. This is an interesting game because Michigan is still the defending champs. They are still a team that has plenty of talent to win football games. We're just seeing they need some time to figure things out and gel. However, the Big Ten does not allow them to take much time to figure that out. So we will see how they problem solve. We see how they adapt to adversity. And if they're able to do that, then they can win this game. But right now, it feels like USC has made the necessary changes to handle life in the Big Ten. And right now, they're the team playing with confidence. It's going to be a little bit tougher, but I think that they have the pieces in place to make this happen.